The biography of a demon, the birth of a villain. The demon, our ultimate symbol of pure evil, the architect of our damnation, was not a discovery. It was an invention. This may sound shocking. For millennia, we have been taught that this malevolent force is an objective reality, an ancient enemy waiting for us in the dark. But the history of the idea tells a different story. It reveals that our most terrifying monster is the product of a deliberate theological and linguistic transformation. It is the story of how a helpful spirit, an inner guide, was systematically turned into a villain. This is the biography of that idea. It is a journey that will take us from the open-air symposiums of Athens, where the Daimon was a subject of philosophical debate, into the scriptoriums of Alexandria, where a single stroke of a translator's pen turned it into a word for evil. And finally, it is the story of its surprising return in our modern world, not as a devil to be cast out, but as a psychological force to be understood. This is the biography of the demon. The original idea, the helpful ghost in the machine. Before the demon was a monster, it was a daimon, a complex and often helpful spiritual force that inhabited the classical Greek world. To understand the radical transformation that was to come, we must first understand this original concept, the very idea that had to be destroyed for our modern demon to be born. In its earliest form, the Greek daimon was less a person and more a function. Derived from a verb meaning to divide or to allot destinies, the daimon was the invisible hand of fate, the mysterious divine power that steered human events. It was, in essence, an unknown superfactor. Think of it as the unseen director of a great play, distributing roles and destinies to the actors on stage without ever revealing its own identity. The philosopher Heraclitus took this a step further, famously stating, "Character is daimon," internalizing this cosmic force as a component of personal destiny. The first critical shift in this idea came from the philosopher Socrates, who brought the daimon inside. Socrates spoke of his daimonion, a little daimon that he described not as an external force, but as an internal voice, an oracular art of the superhuman thing within me. The function of this inner guide was unique. It was purely preventative. It never told him what to do, only what not to do. A useful metaphor for Socrates' daimonion is a divine smoke detector. It doesn't tell you what to cook for dinner, but it will beep loudly and insistently to stop you from burning the house down. This was the birth of the guardian spirit as a divine moral compass. At the same time, another Greek tradition, championed by the poet Hesiod and later by Plato, suggested that virtuous human souls could become daimones after death. Good people, particularly those from the mythical Golden Age, underwent a kind of spiritual promotion, a daimonification, becoming beneficent guardian spirits for the living. This is not unlike how we build monuments to national heroes or name institutions after them, believing their spirit and legacy will continue to protect and guide the community. This vision of the daimon as a reward for human virtue, an elevation after death, is the very model that had to be inverted and destroyed. For the demon to be born, the story could no longer be about a righteous soul ascending. It had to be about a sinful angel falling. The metamorphosis from the helpful daemon to the evil demon did not happen by accident. It was the result of a perfect storm of three specific events that occurred during the Second Temple period of Judaism, between the 6th century BCE and the 1st century CE. A crucial linguistic choice, a new cosmic philosophy, and a powerful new myth would combine to forge the monster we know today. The first, and perhaps most decisive, act was linguistic. Around the 3rd century BCE, Jewish scholars in Alexandria undertook the monumental task of translating the Hebrew Bible into Greek, creating a text known as the Septuagint. When they encountered Hebrew terms for evil spirits, pagan idols, and the false gods of their neighbors, they needed a Greek word. Their choice was daimonion. This was not a neutral translation. It was an act of intellectual sabotage. It was a polemical decision that weaponized a word, forever tainting the original concept. By choosing daimonion, the translators linguistically flattened the entire spiritual landscape. The ambivalent, sometimes helpful intermediaries of the Greek world were now officially equated with the unambiguously malevolent entities of ancient Near Eastern lore. This single choice drew a sharp line, classifying all non-divine spirits into a single wicked category. The second event was the adoption of a new cosmic worldview. After coming into contact with the Persian religion of Zoroastrianism, Jewish thought began to embrace the idea of a grand cosmic battle between good and evil, a universal struggle between the forces of light and the forces of darkness. This new story created a theological need for a main villain. If God is the commander of the forces of light, you now require a powerful antagonist to lead the forces of darkness. This framework elevated the figure of Satan from a minor functionary, a heavenly accuser, to a cosmic adversary. It provided the architecture for a structured demonology, a hierarchy of evil spirits needed to serve as the shadow army in this epic war. The final piece of the puzzle was a new origin myth, a grand unified theory that finally explained what demons are and why they act the way they do. This story comes from the ancient Jewish text known as the Book of Enoch. The myth unfolds in 3 parts. 1. The crime. A group of angels known as the Watchers abandoned their heavenly post, descended to earth, and, overcome by lust for human women, had children with them. 2. The children. These hybrid offspring were violent, chaotic giants known as the Nephilim, who consumed everything in their path and filled the world with violence. 3. The curse. God judged this cosmic transgression. He cast the Watcher angels into chains of darkness and destroyed the bodies of their giant offspring in the great flood. But their spirits, having been born on earth, were now trapped here, homeless and disembodied. And here is the punchline of the myth. These restless, earthbound spirits of the dead giants are the unclean spirits of the New Testament. This story perfectly accounts for their primary motive: possession. They are like desperate ghosts, constantly trying to find a new house, a new body to inhabit, because their own were destroyed. With a tainted name, a cosmic war to fight, and a monstrous origin story, the modern demon was now fully assembled, ready to be codified into official doctrine. The raw material of myth, language, and cosmology was now in place. In the centuries that followed, early Christian thinkers would take this volatile mixture and forge it into a rigid, intellectual doctrine of evil. 2 architects were central to this process: Saint Augustine and Saint Thomas Aquinas. Saint Augustine, writing in the 5th century, delivered the killing blow to the classical Daimon. His argument was brutally simple. There can only be one true intermediary between God and humanity, and that is Jesus Christ. Therefore, any other spiritual being that claims to be a helpful go-between, like the Daimon of the Greek philosophers, must be a liar, a deceiver, and a competition for human worship. This move destroyed the spiritual middle ground. Augustine effectively took the entire spectrum of spiritual colors and declared that only pure black and pure white exist. Every spirit was now either a holy angel serving God or a wicked demon opposing him. There was no more gray area. 8 centuries later, St. Thomas Aquinas defined the demon's nature. Building on Augustine's work, Aquinas argued that demons are fallen angels who retain their original angelic intelligence. This was a significant upgrade from the Enochian model's mindless hunger to a pure, incorporeal intellect, a brilliant thinking machine whose will was permanently and irrevocably locked in opposition to God. Its weapon wasn't possession, but logic. Its goal wasn't a body, but the damnation of a soul through flawlessly crafted deception. Once the demon was defined as universally evil by Augustine and terrifyingly intelligent by Aquinas, this official blueprint was complete. It was ready to be unleashed upon the world, shaping laws, rituals, and the very fabric of the cultural imagination. This codified theological demon did not remain confined to the books of scholars. It escaped into the world, creating specific and terrifying ways for humanity to interact with it, with devastating real-world consequences. The ritual of exorcism. If demons are evil outsiders, as Augustine argued, then the only logical response is to expel them. The Christian rite of exorcism, formally codified in the Rituale Romanum in 1614, is a direct consequence of this worldview. The rite is a liturgical drama that performs this theology in real time, using the delegated authority of Christ to command the demonic intruder to leave its human host. The ritual itself became proof of the doctrine. The demon had to be cast out because it did not belong. The demon was then weaponized by the law. The infamous 15th century text, the Malleus Maleficarum, or the Hammer of Witches, took Aquinas' intelligent demon and gave it a new role, legal co-conspirator. The book's core innovation was to reframe the demon as a rational agent who could enter into a formal pact with a human, the witch, to attack society. This transformed a theological problem into a criminal one. Aided by the new technology of the printing press, this guide for witch prosecutors spread across Europe, becoming an authoritative manual for Catholics and Protestants alike. The Malleus provided a step-by-step guide for prosecutors to identify, torture, and execute witches, who were now seen as agents in a demonic conspiracy against the state. Finally, the demon was immortalized in literature. 2 epic poems, Dante's Inferno and Milton's Paradise Lost, created the enduring cultural images of the demon that are now often mistaken for scripture itself. Yet they offered 2 profoundly different visions. Dante's Satan is the ultimate scholastic demon. He is not a charismatic ruler, but an impotent, slobbering monster frozen in ice at the center of hell. He is the visual representation of sin as a pathetic absence of God, a cold, empty negation of divine love. Milton's Satan, by contrast, is the romantic demon. He is a charismatic, sympathetic, and tragic rebel. He is the heroic individualist who utters the famous line, "Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven." This figure became a powerful cultural icon. While Milton's rebel captured the imagination, another, deeper change was coming, one that would challenge the very idea of an external demon and bring this long story full circle. The return of the Daimon, a reverse exorcism. In the modern world, a strange thing happened. The original pre-Christian idea of the Daimon was retrieved from the dustbin of history, first by occultists and then by psychologists. This led to a radical reinterpretation of the demon, turning the emphasis-strong Christian model on its head. The psychological turn began with the occultist Aleister Crowley, who argued that gods, angels, and demons were really just parts of the human brain. The central aim of his spiritual system was to make contact with one's holy guardian angel, or HGA. This concept was a conscious and direct revival of Socrates' original daimonion, the true inner divine self. In Crowley's model, demons are simply the fragmented, chaotic parts of your own psyche. They can only be mastered after you have connected with your true self. The psychologist Carl Jung completed this retrieval. Jung explicitly reclaimed the word daimon to describe a powerful, autonomous force within the human unconscious that could be either creative or destructive, a perfect echo of the original ambivalent Greek concept. For Jung, the Christian demon was the ultimate psychological byproduct of repression. He proposed the existence of the shadow, the part of our personality where we banish everything we dislike about ourselves, our aggressions, our taboos, our immoral urges. The act of expelling evil, as demanded by Augustine's theology, is precisely what creates the terrifying, destructive shadow. You could say the shadow is like a dark basement where you've locked away all your unwanted impulses. The more you ignore it, the louder and scarier the noises from downstairs become. Jung's solution, which he called shadow work, is essentially a reverse exorcism. The goal is not to expel the demon. The goal is to go down into the basement with a flashlight, understand what's there, and integrate it back into a whole and healthy self. Today, in our largely secular world, the word demon has survived as a powerful metaphor for our internal struggles. We speak of battling the demons of trauma, addiction, and mental illness. This metaphorical use retains what historians call the spirit stance. It rejects the supernatural entity, but personalizes the struggle, treating trauma or addiction as an intentional agent to be wrestled with. In a secular echo of the ancient world, it restores a sense of meaning to our madness, turning a malfunction into a battle. From intermediary to adversary and back again. The biography of the demon reveals a stunning truth. Our ultimate symbol of evil was not a timeless entity waiting to be discovered, but an idea forged, assembled, and codified in the crucible of human history. This concept was deliberately corrupted when a single linguistic choice, translating foreign evils as daimonian, gave a name to the enemy. This newly labeled foe was then given a cosmic war to fight, thanks to a dualistic worldview borrowed from Zoroastrianism, and finally given a monstrous origin story in the Book of Enoch. This newly forged monster was then given an official blueprint by theologians like Augustine and Aquinas, who declared it universally evil and dangerously intelligent. This demon then broke free into the world, creating rituals of expulsion, laws of persecution, and timeless literary villains. Yet the story has come full circle. The concept that began as an internal guide with Socrates was transformed into an external monster to be expelled, has finally returned in the modern era as an internal force to be understood and integrated with Jung. The long biography of the demon forces us to consider that perhaps our most ancient and persistent adversaries are, and always have been, the ones we find within ourselves.